Welcome into the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast, a podcast dedicated to everything you need to know about the squad. Hear from those who cover the NBA on a daily basis.
Give it to V. And now Z, who's still in the backcourt, got a chest pass. Windmill lefty. Powered home. V.
The New Orleans Pelicans Podcast starts right now.
Welcome to the Pelicans Podcast. I am Joe Cardosi, joined by the irreproachable Jim Eichenhofer, the man with the info. We have some bumps in the road we will discuss, my friend, but for now, we have some big news that I guess we should get to right out of the gate. CJ McCollum, who's been so clutch for this team, especially as of late, especially with the absence of TM3, looks like he's going to miss a little time there, Jim.
Yeah, he's got a pneumothorax injury. I'm not a doctor, but it definitely is something that... Well, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely something that's going to keep him out. We're not sure what the timetable is going to be for that. It sounds like he's going to continue to be evaluated to try to figure out what's reasonable. It's kind of one of those things that makes you just kind of sigh and be like, every time we think that the team is getting closer to being full strength, for example, the game Saturday, they got back that starting five that we've been wanting to see. And then as soon as they play one game, they're back without that group tonight against Denver. So, yeah, frustrating. Hopefully CJ will get better, and hopefully we'll be able to see him back on the court. In the meantime, they're going to have to figure some things out.
Yeah, of course, the Pelicans are used to being a little bit snake-bitten. CJ had a collapsed right lung in 2021. He had it with Portland, missed about 18 games. We're going to hope for a minimal timetable for his return here because the Pelicans are shorthanded and going to be facing some tough challenges coming up. And I guess we should talk about how are we going to fill that void that CJ has been filling. I mean, he's been playing lights out. You don't have Trey Murphy yet, still waiting for him. And so looks like some of the young players may have to step up here, Jim, in that absence.
I think I'd start with Jordan Hawkins. He started in 3 games prior to Saturday. He went back to a reserve role in the game against the Hawks because, like I said earlier, the starting five that we expected was intact again. Unfortunately, that was very brief. So I think I don't know if he's going to go back in the starting lineup, but you would think that based on some of what CJ does and some of what Jordan is capable of doing, that maybe he'll play more minutes. They're going to need his 3-point shooting. They're going to need his scoring. So I think that's one aspect of it. I think Herb Jones has been a great player at both ends of the floor. Yeah. So his defense, I think, is going to be crucial, but also maybe his scoring to some extent. Just coincidentally, his best offensive games in his career, a lot of them have come against Denver. So hopefully he'll be able to continue that against the Nuggets tonight. And Dyson Daniels too is another name that pops into my head in terms of CJ McCollum's out for a little bit or some stretch. Who's another guy that's going to have to try to play some of those minutes at that position. Totally different player than CJ in terms of what his strengths are, but nonetheless, I think what Dyson's able to do and maybe him making more strides in his second season, there might be no more valuable time for that to happen than right now.
It seems like Dyson has the trust of the coaching staff right now, which is a big sign of his improvement. And like you said, man, the Pelicans' upcoming slate is not an easy one. It starts tonight with the Denver Nuggets. No slouches. Seems like they've got some trophies in their case, huh?
Yes, they have a very big one. It's not the in-season tournament. It's not the Summer League championship. It's the actual Larry O'Brien NBA championship.
Woof.
So, yeah, I mean, they're also off to a great start. They're one of those teams where I feel like, especially with them being from kind of a smaller or kind of a mid-sized market, a lot of people throughout the summer kind of tried to chip away at them and be like, well, they lost Jeff Green, they lost Bruce Brown, so they can't possibly be as good as they were last year. Plus, the way that Jokic reacted to the championship, they're definitely going to come out of the gate kind of slow and have like a championship hangover. They're going to kind of trot their way slowly into the season. Well, that hasn't been the case at all. They're 6-1. They're back atop the West standings. And I think for some of the teams that thought, maybe we passed them this summer, they're watching the way the Nuggets have began the season so far and been like, maybe we're not. Maybe we still have a ways to go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is a very difficult way to start this road trip, which is going to be tough based on the teams that they have on the slate. One bit of news that we've heard yesterday Over the weekend, Jamal Murray had a hamstring injury that he sustained in the game Saturday against Chicago, so he's actually out as well.
All right.
So both teams have really – CJ's the second leading scorer stat-wise for New Orleans, and Jamal Murray is Denver's second-best scorer as well, so both of those guys won't play. It's going to be up to a few other guys, similarly to New Orleans, some younger players for the Nuggets, some backcourt guys to step up and do more in the absence of one of their best players.
And we don't want to strike fear into the hearts of Pelicans fans, but sort of break down this upcoming slate because we are going to be on the road a bit. Of course, it's not fun to start off against Denver, who seems to be just a war machine, but there are some tough teams ahead, and it is going to be a bit of a challenge to weather this stretch.
Yeah, I think the timing isn't great in terms of CJ being out, not just from the standpoint of the schedule being tough and the opponents being tough, but the fact that there's so many Western Conference games coming up that are kind of swing games where it's almost worth more than one win or more than one game when
Especially
you play.
the in-season tournament stuff
right.
happening.
Yep. And, this is something I mentioned in Gus Kattengill's favorite Pelicans.com feature, which is the 5 things to know.
Yep.
I wrote this morning about how the next 12 games are all against Western teams. You have a 3-game road trip, a 6-game homestand, and then another 3-game road trip. So it's kind of easy to see in terms of very organized, neatly. But yeah, in terms of just short term this week, Denver tonight, Minnesota on Wednesday, Houston on Friday. Now Houston started 0-3, but they've won a couple games, so they're kind of hot or simmering. Minnesota had kind of a shaky start, but they've had a couple wins in a row and beaten some good teams. You always got to watch
out for them, yeah.
Right. So I mean, they just beat Denver last week. So and then Denver, like I mentioned, is 6-1. So these are 3 tough teams on this road trip, or teams that are playing well at least in the last few days. And then on Sunday to close out week 3, the way the NBA sets up the schedule, Sunday the Mavericks are going to be here, and the Mavericks have the second best record in the Western Conference. So yeah, like I said, maybe not the best timing. You're playing against the number 1 team in the West right now in Denver. At the end of the week, you're playing against the team that's in second place, but Pelicans are in 4th place right now. So they're in that top tier as well. It's just going to be a matter of now can they maintain that, especially with going on the road and trying to pick up some big road wins.
And it's okay to be nervous, Pelicans fans. This is a murderer's row we're facing, but if we can weather this stretch early on in the season, hobbled, I'm feeling pretty good if we can, split this, at least just weather it decently as we get closer to full strength, because we are closer to having our team healthier and whole as each week passes. Fingers crossed for CJ, fingers crossed for Trey Murphy. And you mentioned your player to watch is going to be Mr. Jordan Hawkins. I guess he's going to have to step up. It seems like Graf's been talking about Jordan Hawkins, just the easy stroke. It doesn't seem like he's second-guessing his own shot lately. Mm-hmm. And I guess you're going to need him to be as automatic and ruthless as that.
Yeah, and before I get into kind of Jordan Hawkins' week ahead and some of the players that he's going to be matched up against, wanted to play this clip from one of the podcasts that The Athletic has. It's called Slam and Jam, and it posts on Fridays during the season. Andrew Schlecht, who we've actually had him on the podcast a couple of years ago, I think he kind of covers Oklahoma City. He's also a producer and host for The Athletic. They have a bunch of really good podcasts that he's a part of. But he saw Jordan Hawkins play in Oklahoma City last week and had a lot of really good things to say about him in terms of just the fit that he has with the Pelicans, as well as his potential to be a big contributor down the road.
The good news, I saw him the other night in Oklahoma City. He contributed in a lot of other ways other than shooting. He did take 13 threes, which I loved. He only had 2 of them, but it's just like the ability to just take 13 threes is just awesome. I thought that was great. He contributed on the board some. He is real small. He's real skinny, but he's somebody that I feel like can kind of fill out a little bit. He can take different kinds of shots. He passed the ball well. He had a couple steals that were really timely, too. He just knows how to play. And so I really like that pick for them. And I think long-term it's really going to pay off because they really need shooting around their main guys in Zion and B.I. And I think he's somebody that's going to play really well. And the bad news is he just hasn't shot the ball well so far. He is a shooter. The stroke looks really good. He's only shot 27%. I expect that to go up. I expect him to be like a 37 to 42% three-point shooter for his career. And once he does that, if he's already contributing in other areas with his passing and his rebounding, I think that the Pelicans may have found another really nice role player. And when you get Trey Murphy back and you can play Jordan Hawkins with them, I think that they may have found like a really nice core to kind of move forward with Zion and BI that fit really well. Because what do you need? You need contributors all around, but you really need shooting. And I think that with the bad news of him not being able to shoot it well through his first 5 games, I just have to believe that's going to turn around. I think that he's going to have a 9 for 13 game here where he just explodes because he can get those shots off. He's got a quick release. They're finding him. They believe in him. They continue to turn back to him in a tough, contested game in Oklahoma City. So, yeah, I think that he's somebody that I think will really thrive. And he kind of reminded me a little bit of his teammate, CJ McCollum, with the way that he was able to get some of his shots off. So I think he's going to be a really nice addition to the Pelicans, especially once that three-point shot starts to fall.
Well, Jim, just when we're starting to get a little down, I'm ready to run through a brick wall again. It's true. It sounds counterintuitive that you're glad he's putting up those shots he's not making. We keep hearing that. And we're like, and some people are probably like, really? Are you sure?
Yeah.
But the fact that the coaches are still telling him to do it, hopefully that's going to pay off in terms of his confidence when we need him the most right here.
Yeah, and I think the fact that it's not just us, you and I, saying this. I mean, one of the reasons I like that clip was it was someone else outside who has no stake in this saying the same thing that we've been talking about in terms of, like, we're happy to see him get those shots up even if he's not making them. Now, the good news, very specific to that, is that recording was on Friday, and in Saturday's game, Jordan was 4 for 8 from three-point range. So maybe the upswing has already happened. Maybe he's already starting to find that stroke. He's up to 32% from 3 on the season. After that game, Andrew Schlecht mentioned that he was at 27% before then. So a really good performance on Saturday and something that he's going to have to carry over into this week. It's kind of an interesting mix of players. You mentioned Jordan Hawkins is my player to watch this week. CJ McCollum was actually my player to watch in week 2. The good news on that was he had a really good week.
You're always nailing it, Jim.
Yeah, the bad news obviously was the injury that happened at the very end. But in terms of Jordan Hawkins, week 3, Denver, he's going to be going up against Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. It would have been even tougher if Jamal Murray was on the floor, but that's not the case now. Minnesota, one of the guards and wings that the Timberwolves have that's just a player that a lot of guys list as one of the toughest people to guard in the league, is Anthony Edwards. Houston has Jalen Green at the 2-guard spot. And then Dallas, of course, has the combination of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. So there's a lot of really interesting kind of, maybe not one-on-one matchups, but just backcourt guys that Jordan is going to have to face. And so not only you'd think his role and his minutes will go up with CJ out, but he's also going up against a lot of really talented players in this swing of Western teams.
Well, and that's going to be the toughest part is he going to be able to defend well? A lot of rookies are not built like that. Herb Jones is, of course, an anomaly.
Right.
But you're going to see Hawk, I guess, having to play both ends there, and we got to hope for some quick growth. What else are you looking at the keys to the Pelicans grinding out this win? I know we're putting a lot on the young man's shoulders, but who else do you think can contribute to get this Pelicans team to not have to rely on like a young gun to get all their scoring?
Yeah, one of the players to watch for the game that's going to be in my game day update that we'll be posting probably late morning, definitely by the early afternoon on Monday, is Larry Nance Jr. And part of why I'm listing him and mentioning him is because his role kind of goes up sometimes against the Nuggets, partly because of their front court. Larry's defensive versatility is very important and very valuable against Denver because they have one of the toughest, most unguardable centers, obviously, in Jokic, and then they also have Aaron Gordon at power forward. So the combination of Jokic and Gordon is so different. Those are like, you couldn't find 2 more stylistically different guys. But the thing that's important for Larry Nance and why I think sometimes he plays more minutes against Denver is that he can handle either of those guys defensively. I shouldn't say not handle Jokic.
Yeah, it's hard to handle
try
Jokic,
to contain him a little bit and just be able to try to match up with some of the stuff that he does. And then Larry's also extremely athletic, so that gives him a chance to hold up against Aaron Gordon as well. So those are the guys. I mean, to me, we talked about Jordan Hawkins extensively earlier. We talked about Herb, Dyson Daniels as well. I think those are probably some of the guys that are going to need to play more this week or produce more. Another player too, Matt Ryan, has had a couple big 3-point shooting games. Was great in the win against Detroit at home. He's going to have to try to carry that onto the road as well. I do feel like there will be some kind of domino effect. We don't know. It's hard to know exactly how it's going to be divvied up, but you would think that the main guys who might have a bigger role with CJ out are going to be Hawkins, Daniels, and Ryan.
Yeah, and it's crazy that Jokic is so unguardable because I feel like I have Jokic bot, and I'm very guardable. But the Pelicans are going to have their hands full, and let's hope that they can deal with it. You know, I'm looking at the waters, Jim, and I see a ripple. Seems like Jim's poll has been casted out there for the people, and they can vote on it as well. If you want to be a piece of Jim's life, you get to hop on X, Twitter, whatever you call it, and vote on the poll.
Yes, indeed. I cast out there. One thing I didn't catch any. I mean, it's early. We're still pretty early on Monday morning. I haven't caught any fish, and when I say that, I mean there hasn't been anyone commenting yet. I really do want to encourage people that they can write in votes. If you're not happy with the 4 candidates that I've put out there, if you want to say like, "Hey Jim, the 4 guys that you gave as options to vote for as Player of the Week, I don't like any of them. Yeah. I want my own guy." And you're welcome to do that. You're welcome to comment and say, why did you vote for a specific person? But anyways, the poll so far, and there's about 9 hours left in this because I'm taking this.
So you got some time.
Yeah, I'm taking this up to tip off. That's what the countdown is going to be a lot of these polls. CJ McCollum is actually leading by a pretty good margin. He's got 50% of the votes. There's 56 votes as I say this. Herb Jones, 25%, Matt Ryan, 21%, Jonas Valanciunas at 4%. So props to CJ for the week that he had. Unfortunately, he's out now. But also some of the other guys I mentioned, I thought they all had a valuable piece of the Pelicans going 2-2 last week, beating OKC in Detroit, losing to Golden State in Atlanta. But Matt Ryan, 21%, like I said, not bad for a guy that was undrafted and that they basically signed a few days before the start of the regular season.
Continuing the turnaround of the name Matt Ryan in New Orleans. So, Wednesday's show, we will have our own Aaron Summers with us. And then Friday, look ahead, get your glasses ready. The in-season tourney is going to begin, and that means you get to look at one of those laser light courts again. And hey, if you want to turn on some, I don't know, Journey or whatever makes you feel like you're an old skating rink show or something, enjoy yourself. I think it's fun, and it's going to be a lot of people's first taste of the tourney action. I think a lot of people are going to be doing some homework.
I did not have a roller skating reference on my bingo card for this show today, so that's very, very nice to hear.
Catch me at the rink rolling backwards.
But yeah, no, Friday will be the first in-season game against the Houston Rockets. It was interesting kind of checking in on some of the games this past Friday night. Obviously, since we last spoke here, the in-season tournament started for, I think it's 14 different teams. There were 7 games Friday night. The Pelicans weren't one of them, but they will be getting that kick started. By the way, too, in West Group B, which is the Pelicans group, Denver beat Dallas by 11 points on Friday. So, and you say, Jim, what does it matter how much they won by?
Right.
Well, if you look at, I haven't seen a lot of them, but of the in-season tournament standings that I've seen, there's always a point differential listed. And the reason for that is that the first tiebreaker after head-to-head record is point differential. So you're going to see a lot of teams maybe keep a little bit of an eye on that.
Trying to run up the score a little more than they would.
Maybe. And also on the other side to try to not lose big games by 20, 30 points, because it'll be very damaging to you if you lose a game by a lot based on that. So, but just interesting. There's just one game in the Pelicans group. The Nuggets beat Dallas. The game Friday, I think, for the Pelicans and the Rockets will be important because each of those teams are going to have to play Dallas and Denver later in the group as well as the Clippers. So you don't want to start off with a loss against the Rockets, and the Rockets are saying the same thing about the Pelicans just because the competition after that is very tough. And I think we've talked about this briefly, but I think people have kind of figured out already that you really only have one loss that you can have in the in-season tournament. If you lose 2, you're pretty much done as far as advancing. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when everyone has each other circled on their schedule, but you're going to find out about our medal. Great Gymfo, as always, on the in-season tournament. Hey, if you want to check out that court, you'll be able to see me and Jim just roller skating to Mariah Carey's Fantasy, just crisscrossing. It's going to be fun. We got to get pumped somehow.
What a visual.
Yeah, but you always hard check someone up against the glass, too. It's fine.
Just because I don't want people to accuse me of being soft or being a roller skater.
Jim's got to stay hard. Yeah.
right.
So, no helmet. Just watch out for him on the rink.
And by the way, Joe, what did you think of the city uniforms that the Pelicans trotted out? I thought
they were cool, man.
And I thought they looked – I liked them in the photo shoots, and I was like, oh, those look cool. But I thought on the court they looked even better.
Same, yeah.
I feel like that happens a lot where you'll see it in like a marketing thing, and it can be either way better or way worse based on the way that they look in the still photos and the model shoots. I mean, they should use us in the model
They
shoots,
really
but
should.
That's a conversation for a different day.
It's fine. They don't want someone too swole in the photos. That's
right.
okay.
That's true. Yeah, they probably wouldn't. They might skew how they look. For
they don't want Jim showing up Zion with the delts.
Exactly.
But, it's I thought it was cool, man. I like any change up of uniforms. I liked the City Edition uniforms when they came out. Anytime they get to tinker and add a little something, I think is fun. Fans love it, and hopefully you're buying up some of those jerseys in the team shop. So check that out.
And by the way, too, it sounds like the team store did incredibly well on Saturday in terms of somebody told one of the staffers here told me that he got like the last of a certain item. There was only one left on the rack, or they had to take something from the back because they had everything was off the shelves gone. So
That to spear someone like Terry Tate to get a hat.
yeah, but that gear and the color scheme that you mentioned, it's been very popular. I really like the theme. I heard Jen Hale on Saturday mention too, and I'm going to have to test this out, that those uniforms have like a purple tint in the dark.
Yeah, it's like the old Batman colors or something.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I thought that when I saw those uniforms in some kind of marketing thing or photo shoot, I thought it was like a darker blue.
Me too.
Tint, and it's actually kind of a black, or it is black. It's a black color, so should be fun. They're going to be wearing those during the first in-season tournament home game as well. I don't think they can wear those, by the way, in the road games because sometimes if the other team, like say the Rockets city uniforms are also dark blue or black, they're not going to be able to wear. Pelicans have to wear white ones, but we will see those on the court, on the purple and green court on the 17th against Dallas.
Well, let's roll, Jimothy. I am ready for tonight. I am ready for the schedule ahead. Let's go get the Joker. Big thanks to Mr. Jim Eichenhofer for the sound and the research. Big thanks to you for listening to the Pelicans Podcast. Tell your friends and pals. We will talk to you once again on Wednesday. And until then, go Pels.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast. Join us 3 times per week on Pelicans.com, the Pelicans mobile app, or you can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes. We'll see you next time right here on the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast.